Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this week's video, we are going to look at 5 advanced sound design tips and tricks that you can do to your patches to create some more interest in the sounds. Now, if you didn't check out my 5 basics tips and tricks, you can check that out. The video link is just above and I'll leave it below in the comments as well, or in the description rather. So again, we're going to use a delayer and let's get into it. Number one we are going to look at is FM. So we're going to use one oscillator to modulate another one. And this can get us a whole slew of different timbres to your sounds to really create something that you wouldn't necessarily get from a triangle, saw, square, and pulse, or any combination of the two of those. So what we're going to do is we'll go to mod, and then we're going to go to oscillator 2. So we can see oscillator 2 here. And then I'm just going to hold down the C, and then if I change this tuning, and also you can see the waveform as I increase that tuning, we are getting a whole bunch of different it's like folding the oscillator back on itself. So let's go with that to start. And then we're going to change both of these oscillators to a triangle. So let's go to the mod again. Take that down a little bit. And that's without even having the second oscillator turned up. No change there to the sound. Obviously, if we can scroll through the different waveforms, you're going to get a whole slew of other sort of different sounds again. Nice and raspy sort of sound. So if I go down to the bass, and again, I'm still on the triangle on oscillator 1. I go to oscillator 2 and change the wave shape. So you can see there, just simply by sending oscillator 2 into oscillator 1 and modulating the frequency, we're getting all of those different sounds, and it can just take your sound design to the next level as getting away from those traditional waveforms. So number 2 is hard sync. Now, not every synth will have this feature, but it does in the delayer, and I love using it. You would have heard this very much in the 80s, and Daft Punk has also used it, and Dua Lipa has also used it as well in some of her tracks. And so if we engage it, got hard sync, we'll go to oscillator 2, we're going to go up 1 octave, we'll bring up the volume. Now when I adjust that, we kind of get that very sort of rubbing the two oscillators together. One thing that we can do is we can use the auxiliary envelope to then adjust the tuning. So let's go to mod, we'll go to auxiliary, and then we're going to increase that. It's going to be really sharp at the moment. Just taking down the level so it's not sort of that high piercing top. We can kind of control how much with the sustain, and then how it's affected, how quickly it comes on with the decay. go over to the VCA and just pull up that release. I kind of want this to be a lead sound, so let's go to patch, poly mode, legato, exit. Bring out that. Just a little bit of chorus, go to effects 2, get a reverb, a little bit of shimmer on there, and then definitely if your synth has that hard sync option, check it out. Try it with the envelope to get sort of those different timbres and different sounds to sort of give your track that little bit extra. Number 3 is multi-timbral patches. Now, this has kind of gone out of style just a little bit with the power of computers and just having more options, where if you want 2 synths to have 2 different sounds, you can kind of just put one on one track, one on another, call it a day, and you're good to go. But there's something to have the being able to split a patch into 2 parts. And so then when you play notes, you're going to get different variations to happen. And let me demonstrate that. So we can come across to multi. And then you can see here, layer voices, we've got that set to 6. So we're going to edit that. And I want number 1 to be set to 1 voice. So that's only going to let me play 1 at a time. Then number 2 is going to be set to 5 voices. So let's come out of there. So you can hear kind of getting that chorusy effect because we have layer 1 and layer 2 going at the same time. So I'm going to pull down layer 2, go back to layer 1, and we can see that's the beauty of having the mechanical pots, is we can see what's going on and what's actually turned on. So we got number 1 there. Let's pull down the level, and then let's just increase this. So this is how much this envelope is affecting this filter here. And then what I'm going to do is a little tricky thing is I'm going to add a LFO to that filter. So we can go LFO 1, go full, change the shape to ramp down, go level up there. And then for the filter, let's just put the attack on there. Same with the amp envelope. So this is layer 1 at the moment. Let's turn that down. We're going to go to layer 2, turn this up. Let's change this to, we've got the square wave. Let's go to LFO 2. Let's put some modulation on that. Go to shape, we're on LFO 2. Let's change that to a triangle. And you can see there, we've got the movement on the oscillator there. Let's come along and we'll put oscillator 2. We'll go to oscillator 3 and 4. Yeah, that sounds good there. So let's go back to layer 1. Actually, layer 2, let's put a filter on there as well. Turn down the low pass filter. And then one last thing, we're going to put a little effect on there. So we got chorus at the moment, but let's change that to a reverb. Okay, cool. So we got our basic sound on 1 and we got our basic sound on 2. What we can do is go back to layer 1, turn up oscillator 1. So now when I play a note, we're going to add a little bit more to the number 1 side. So we just added another oscillator and turn up the volume. So you can hear we've got the little beating in the background sort of thing. Let's go to, I'm going over to layer 2, pull down the level of that filter a little bit. So now whenever I play a key, we've got both that beating sound and the sustain sound. So layer 1 and layer 2 playing at the same time. So number 4 is using the LFO in the same way that we use it in the last patch, but instead of just having it playing at the same sort of rate each time and then also not having to move it by hand, we're going to use that auxiliary envelope to change the rate on the LFO. So go to initialize perch, pull down that filter, and I'm just going to shape a basic sound to get us up and running. Go to patch, and let's change that to retrigger. Now I want the LFO, same as we did before, LFO 1, to affect the filter. So I've just gone mod LFO and then at the moment it's at just sine wave going. So let's change the LFO shape to a ramp down. So it's like just one part of the saw. And I wanted to, but I don't want to have to do that by hand. So what we're going to do is go to mod. We're going to come across, we got auxiliary, and then we're going to change this to the rate. So let's increase that to, we'll go to about 81. And then this is where we'll come and shape this. Take this down. Just going to change that decay to give us a bit more movement. Let's increase that a little bit more again. Let's bring out some chorus. And then let's go, and we're going to add, we'll go effect 2, reverb, add that shimmer in. Now remember, this is just one sawtooth with a filter and the LFO going to that filter and the envelope going back to the LFO. Pretty cool effect, and you'll hear it all the time at the moment in sort of that melodic techno, but I think it's a really cool little synth trick to kind of give your patches a little bit more. If you kind of use that in conjunction with the layers, you can really get something that with a lot of movement. So you could have one layer just with that, and then you could have the other layer where you play chords and stuff like that. So the fifth and final one that we're going to look at today is using the mod wheel, which is just out of picture here. It's like right there. But using the mod wheel, the aftertouch and velocity as mod sources to really help give your patches a lot of movement. So let's have a look at some basic uses to really get them going, and then we can, hopefully this can kind of get your head scratching a little bit and maybe thinking of some things that you could do within your own tracks and your own sounds. So first up, let's make a basic patch. And then again from the last one, we are going to use go mod, LFO1 to filter, change the shape to that ramp down. Now we've got that going. Let's pull down the attack on both of those. And then let's go to LFO, retrigger, and let's turn that retrigger on. So now it's always starting at the same point on the waveform, so we're not getting that variation. But one thing we can do so let's have a look at these. We've got velocity. So one thing we could do is we could go to velocity and then change the rate. So now if we let's take the rate down all the way. Gives it a lot of variation there. With the only thing with that is I'm not a velocity guru, so for me to play the same velocity at the same, like twice in a row, it's not going to happen. So let's go to velocity and let's take that off. We can go to aftertouch. So let's go rate up again. So now see when I push those keys down a little bit harder now, gives a nice little change. So if you're playing a that's one way you could be using it. Let's go to after, take that off. And then the easiest one, obviously, is the wheel. So we've got the wheel. And the cool thing is it's a lot easier to kind of get that wheel to the exact same point And we can also, same as we can do with velocity and aftertouch, is we can now attach that to multiple points. So we've got it to the rate, we can add it to filter cutoff, we can add it to resonance, we can add it to drive, we can add it to the wave, we can add it to the volume for number 2, and now it can go from 0 to really crazy really quickly by just attaching it to a couple of mod points, and then we can use the mod wheel obviously to then dictate how much or how little of that effect. So that is about it for today. We're going through 5 advanced sound design. They're pretty much the things that just didn't fit into the basic ones. I felt like they were a little bit more than if someone was to then start creating their own sounds. These ones are a little bit more advanced. Obviously we could go further again, but I feel like if you watch the basic and you watch this one, those 10 points will give you a really good stepping stone, and it's something that I use in all of my patches when I get a synth and then do a bank of sounds for the company. I will use all of these tips and tricks for all of the patches. It makes it a lot easier to give the end user a lot more control over all of the sounds, and it gives them a lot more variation as opposed to just having a super saw over and over again or just the same sort of bass sounds. I do like to make a lot of the sounds a little bit more basic so they are a little bit more usable, but it's still cool to have the velocity, aftertouch, and the mod wheel attached at different points, so then when the player is playing a bit of a song and they reach for that mod wheel and then it starts to really open the sound up or create a lot more variation in the sound, it can add a lot more excitement and hopefully get that person to then maybe use another patch or another sound in their song. So yeah, hopefully you've got something out of these, and until next time, see you later.